I'm Terrence James, and you're watching another episode of Neutral Reviews, where we do real reviews for real decisions. And today we're looking at the 2022 Porsche Cayenne base model. And I borrowed this vehicle from Porsche of London that has a fantastic location, beautiful showroom, elite customer care, and some of the most amazing vehicles on the planet, including this one. Now, whether you already have a 911 or thinking of getting a Cayenne to haul around the kids, or if kids came into the picture before you could get your dream 911, the Porsche Cayenne is the do-everything Porsche that is as capable on the back cottage road as it is the track. Now granted, it looks like one of our sports heroes that's plumped up in the off season, but we keep in the pool anyway because behind that extra bulk, we still see that athletic prowess, and we know that extra size will come in handy, and that is the Cayenne in a nutshell. I remember in 2002 when they first introduced this vehicle, I thought the Porsche should have just stayed in their lane and continued to build what they were good at, the 911. Little did I know that the Cayenne was to save the 911. Porsche saw that SUVs weren't going away, they needed to get in the market quickly, but they knew that building anything less than a 911 wouldn't suffice. So they partnered with VW and they built an SUV worthy of the badge. And that forward-thinking business decision not only saved the 911, but allowed all those extra years of 911 to be put back into this now third generation of Cayenne that is packed with more elite sports car technology than pretty much any other SUV on the road. So we take a look at this incredible all-rounder to see if it's still the champ. Let's take a look. Now, Porsche has created an intuitive lineup of Cayenne that offers an SUV or coupe version in every trim except the top-level Turbo GT, which comes in a coupe version only, and also happens to be a double in everything, including price. That being said, the base model comes in around $80,000 Canadian, plus fees and taxes, and you can get all the way up to around $200,000 for that Turbo GT. Now, that money will buy you a 3-liter turbocharged V6 engine putting out 335 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque, and you can get all the way up to a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 that will put out 631 horsepower and 626 pound-feet of torque, and really anywhere in between because of all the different configurations that Porsche offers you. Now, all that power will launch this 4,500 pound vehicle from 0 to 60 in about 6.2 seconds here for the base model, and in as little as 3.3 seconds for that Turbo GT. And the top speed ranges from around 150 to 186 miles per hour. Now, all that power runs through the well-established 8-speed Tiptronic automatic, sorry, no PDK, but it's still a very fast, smooth shifting transmission, making this a capable vehicle on track, especially when coupled with exotic sports car features like torque vectoring, dynamic chassis control, and rear wheel steering. Now, this vehicle also has a sophisticated all-wheel drive system, making it capable off-road as well, especially due to things like a 2-speed transfer case, locking differentials, and programming that will allow traction to go to the wheel or wheels with the most traction, even when those differentials are open. And with the optional air ride suspension, you can increase the ride height of this vehicle to make it competitive in many off-road categories with even something like a Jeep Rubicon. Now, this vehicle can tow an impressive 7,700 pounds, which is the equivalent to one of these lifestyle accessories hanging off the back of your Cayenne. Now, whether you get the 4-piston front and 2-piston rear brake calipers in the base model here, or you get the giant carbon ceramic 10-piston front and 4-piston rear brake calipers on that Turbo GT, you have all the power you need to stop in a hurry. And in fact, even the base model here can do 70 miles an hour to 0 in as little as 159 feet when doing emergency stopping, which is actually 9 feet better than a Jeep Trackhawk with Brembo brakes. So this vehicle is extremely capable on road and track and off. But the way the vehicle performs gets us to drive it, but the way the vehicle looks gets us to buy it. So let's talk styling. Now, there's no doubt that the designers of the Cayenne had their work cut out for them, because no matter which way you slice it, it's not an easy task to take a 911 and still make it attractive with SUV proportions. But I do like the way that the designers kept 911 styling cues, like the rear light bar design and of course the front bumper, front fender, and front headlights. This vehicle is a nice looking vehicle and it is unmistakably a Porsche, but they did play it safe to appeal to as many buyers as possible. But that was kind of the point. But you tell me what you think of the styling in a comment below. And although this may not be the most exciting of exterior designs, a well laid out interior can get us behind the wheel just the same as a compelling exterior. So let's take a look at the inside. Now, regardless of what you think of the exterior styling, the interior is gorgeous. The second you get in here, you can tell as much time and effort went into the interior styling and usability as went into the engineering. Everything just looks well planned and is covered in really nice materials. And not only does it look great in here, but everything works well too. Whether it's these ergonomic seats with sporty seating position, or whether it's the multifunctional, fully adjustable sports steering wheel, or whether or not it's the low profile, wide dashboard with ascending center console and easy to reach touch sensitive controls and the sporty look it brings. And the 12-inch touchscreen infotainment on the Cayenne is excellent. It is clear, it is quick, and it is responsive. And like the rest of the interior, it is just really well laid out. And I love the way that Porsche integrates it directly into the dash, where so many other manufacturers, including high-end ones, look like they lazily just tack it on the dashboard somewhere. And this infotainment is responsible for some of the features and technologies that make this vehicle so great. Now, whether it is the Bose surround sound system, or it's the online navigation, or the performance tuning, this system matches the price tag where many others lag behind. And it also has an excellent camera system as well, where the lines and camera perspective can optionally change during the direction of your backing up. And it also gives you the option too, in some of the models, to have varying different options in high quality resolution back cameras and a front camera as well. And I also really like this instrument cluster, and mainly because of that center-mounted tachometer that is classic Porsche. But I also really like the new style digital gauges on each side of it and the information that goes on them. For instance, the information they put on these screens is fantastic and is easy to scroll through with these two rolling buttons. On the right screen, you get a lot of the pertinent information that you need from your different temperatures, tire pressure monitoring, things like that, even some performance with a G meter. But the main thing that I like, it's difficult to see from the angle of the camera, but you have your navigation that comes right onto this center screen, so you're able to keep your eyes on road. And with that being so, it also has optional heads-up display that works very well and has different customization that can come again from this wonderful infotainment system. And the designers of the Cayenne have also included practical features that actually work. Thank you, Germans. For instance, we have cup holders here in the center that hold real water bottles. Same with the door pockets. They'll hold real water bottles and stop them from spilling in this beautiful interior. And they'll also hold all kinds of other stuff at the same time. And you also have a nice large glove compartment that is felt lined. And on the center console, you have a wireless charging pad that will actually fit a modern cell phone. And not only that, but they give you two USB-C ports for modern devices. And this will come in handy if you want to use your wired Android Auto or your wireless Apple CarPlay. And the practical features do not stop up here. They're also in the back. So let's take a look. And the attention to detail does not stop back here. These seats are incredibly comfortable, sporty, ergonomic, covered in beautiful leather. But they have the option to be heated and ventilated. You don't always see that in the rear. And regardless, you have the option to recline them. And I tell you, that is nice to have back here as well. Along with that is the heating and ventilation system is amazing. You have a beautiful digital display in the back of the center console. And not only that, but you actually have ventilation on the B-pillars here, which is not very common. And obviously is nice to have that extra layer of air that can come at you when you're back here to keep comfortable. With that being so, I'm only 5'7", but as you can see, there seems to be a lot of headroom leg room and foot room back here. You have these beautiful front seats that are sporty and they're very thin, especially for an SUV, so there's lots of room for leg room back here. And you have this beautiful large panoramic sunroof from front to back as well, giving you a lot of greenhouse space. And again, it's a very airy and comfortable feeling back here. This is a very spacious cabin. Now, with that being so, it is a true 5-seater with no third row option, which means there's a lot of space in the back. So let's take a look at the trunk. And as you can see, the Cayenne's cargo space is decent. With the seats up, you get about 27 cubic feet of cargo space. And with the seats down, you can pretty much double that and get about 60 cubic feet of space. And it also has a super convenient 20-40 split rear seat configuration, giving you lots of different options. I was not able to test it, but it does look like you can easily fit a baby seat back there and get it in and out quite easily. As well, you can see that you got lots of space for strollers and all kinds of stuff, including things for Home Depot runs. Lots of space in this vehicle and incredibly practical. So it's not just a sports car masquerading as an SUV, but it's an SUV that excels above the rest on the road. So let's take it for a drive. Now, as we're developing the show, we've added a new feature in this episode where we start to talk about the facts in the beginning, which is more the cold, hard numbers, you know, your horsepowers, your torques, all of that kind of thing. But in the driving portion, what I thought we would start doing is talk more about the feels. How did those things feel? How did they translate on road? You know, and as we progress with that, we're going to add more and more to it. But one of the things that we've always talked about is what are our first impressions? And we're going to continue to do that in these reviews, including with this Cayenne. So my first impressions this morning when I picked this vehicle up was that it was a lot larger of a vehicle than I was expecting, because, you know, you got 911 in your head and Porsche, but it's a decent sized SUV. It really is. It's got all the space that you need. And the other thing along with that is it sat and sits a lot higher than I was expecting, again, because when you're sitting in here, it does look a lot like a 911. It's very similar in its styling in here. And again, you get the styling cues on the outside, as we said, with the front headlights and the bumper and the rear lights and all that stuff and the fenders. You do get the idea that you're driving a 911, but because it sits up so high, that really did surprise me. This really is an SUV, and they've built it that way. Yeah, and that was my first impressions, along with, once you got in here, that it is a stunningly beautiful interior and well laid out. I own another VW product, and the same thing. The Germans are always very good at making things extremely practical, but also extremely nice. Everything seems so well built in here. It just sounds expensive, and it sounds well built. And I don't mean expensive just in the sense of, hey, look, I'm driving a Porsche. I mean expensive in the sense of somebody did their homework, somebody put some real effort in here on the little details. And I can't tell you how important that is, especially when you own a vehicle for a while, because no, I don't care who makes it, after a while you're going to get some squeaks and rattles. But a vehicle like this, a German-built vehicle, especially Porsche and the VW group, they are so good at making sure that this vehicle and all the vehicles they built are so sound and so tight, and you're going to get years and years of excellent driving out of that vehicle. And I tell you, my VW product is no Porsche, and I think it's got 60,000 kilometers on it, something like that now, and it drives the same as when it was brand new. There's no squeaks, no rattles, and it's a very comfortable, nice place to be that just works as does this vehicle. One of the other things that we'd like to check too is acceleration. Now, we don't have the equipment today or the time to do a full test to see what the actual 0 to 60 times are, but the numbers that I quoted earlier in the facts portion, I would be very confident in, because they came from reputable journalists and some big magazines who do this for a living and have done it for many, many years. So what we want to do is just do a quick launch here. We're in sport mode, and we're not doing like a launch, but just to give you the idea of, like, does this car have some zip power to get away from a stoplight? As you can see, we're easily up to 100 there. And I have to say, again, this car here, SUV, is quoted similar numbers to my sports car for 0 to 60. However, My car is naturally aspirated, and the power delivery is quite different than this, but because of this even single turbocharger on this 3-liter, it is very progressive and linear. It is incredibly smooth shifting transmission. The acceleration, as I said, is very linear. You wouldn't even really know that it's a turbo. And it seems faster than the 6.2 seconds it quotes. And maybe because the power does come, you know, a little bit earlier in the power range because it's a turbocharged and you got some torque there. I don't know, but it does feel a little bit faster than that 6.2 seconds. And I've got to tell you, on normal acceleration, when you're just, you know, going on a I shouldn't say back road, if you're trying to pass someone or you're going on the highway, things like that, incredible. You have power really in any gear that you need for everyday use. Of course, this 3-liter that we're looking at in the base, this probably isn't going to be the vehicle that you're going to buy and take to the track, because even though it handles incredibly, it's not that type of fast. But there is a lot of variations in this Cayenne that will allow you varying ranges of speed, all the way up to 3.3 seconds, and, you know, a lot in the 4-second range as well, which is really moving. So if you want that type of acceleration on track, you definitely can get it with the Cayenne, with all the different features and options that this car gives you. And one of the things that we want to check too is braking. So we're going to get going at a good speed here. We're going to do kind of an emergency brake. And it brakes really, really smoothly, very progressively, very controlled. What's it like to brake just normal driving? Again, it's very, very smooth, like everything with this car or SUV. One of the things I have to say is I have a sports car that weighs almost half this amount, and it has 4-piston front and 2-piston rear brake calipers, and they're Brembos, and they obviously work really well on my sports car. And I wasn't sure how these would work, because this, like I said, this vehicle has pretty much the same brakes as my car and weighs almost double, but they work really well. Of course, you can feel the weight, and it does take a little bit longer to stop, but it's so controlled. It is like my sports car, and again, that's what they were going for with this. And I could only imagine the Turbo GT's 10-piston front brake calipers and how well they work. But regardless, this vehicle is very, very composed and very smooth in its braking. And it's an enjoyable experience to brake, even in day-to-day uses. Now, what else we want to talk about while we're in here is noise, vibration, and harshness. And again, this vehicle is very quiet. Not the most quiet vehicle in the world, but again, it's not, I don't think that's its intention. It's not a Rolls Royce. It's still going for a sporty aspect. It still is a volume seller, Porsche or not. But it's very quiet. You don't hear really virtually any wind noise. You hear little road noise, but again, stuff that's going to come in here unless it's a Rolls Royce. What else with the noise, vibration, and harshness is the engine. You do hear the engine. It's a fine sounding engine. And again, I don't, as much as we keep talking about the analogy of the 911, this isn't a 911, maybe the Turbo GT, but, when we're talking base model and some of the other ones, in here, that's not really the intention. So it is quiet, and you can hear the engine, but it's not, it's not super quiet, but it's fine. It's a great place to be. I have to say that. It is a wonderful space. Lots of light. You feel very safe in here, and there is a ton of space. And again, we said it's a good size SUV, but I mean, just the way that it's laid out and planned, you feel like you have tons and tons of space back here, especially in the back. So if you do have kids or adults or teenagers or things like that, there is tons of space back there in those seats. Really, really impressed. I didn't mention, at least I don't think I remembered to mention, when we were talking about the back seats, and don't forget there is a coupe version of this. So with the coupe version, you do lose about 20-25% because of the slope in the rear, but mainly what you're losing back there is just stuff to stack up things in that rear cargo area. Other than that, really the space is very similar. And again, with that being said, it looks like Porsche has said that they want to spend most of their efforts in here in giving the most amount of space for the passenger and kind of stole a little bit from the cargo space. I would expect that there would be a little bit more cargo space for the size of vehicle, but on the same note, there was plenty back there, and you have plenty of space to sit, and I think that's probably the most important. One of the other things to mention as well is just the overall how you feel in here when you're driving in terms of some of the electronic equipment. I have not tested the vehicle at all for off-roading. The weather was a little dicey today, but not too bad. The all-wheel drive system worked well. I tried out some of the different modes. You got gravel and things like that. But again, I didn't off-road the vehicle. I'm literally just driving it on the road. But I'm assuming from everything that I've learned that this vehicle is incredible. Off-roading and all those things work well. And the same when your track focus type things. I haven't really got into any of those. I have put it in sport mode as you've seen and things like that. However, not going too bonkers with that stuff. But when it comes to the safety equipment in here, again, driven a lot of vehicles now, and what I have to say is it's gentle. As aggressive as Porsches are when it comes to things like performance and acceleration and all of that, this car is extremely tame and gentle when it comes to the usability day to day. Every vehicle, especially at this type of price point nowadays, has all these fancy lane keep and blind spot monitoring, and they all call it different things, or the emergency braking, cross traffic. This vehicle likewise has all of that stuff, but what I found with it is it's gentle. Like, some of the cars, they're really aggressive. Like, it really throws you back in the lane, or it's very bossy, or the noises is constantly chirping, or the chirps are very irritating. This vehicle doesn't do a lot of that, and when it does, they're nice, gentle noises, soft lighting, gently moves you where it needs to. And as well, with that being said, even the auto start stop in here, I don't even remember what vehicle one of the ones I've driven recently, but it was awful. It sounded like an old diesel pickup truck starting up and shutting off each time, and I was really concerned that something was going to break. Like, I just couldn't believe how many times is this thing going to start and stop? Is it still going to keep going? Like, it just sounded like it was going to break. This vehicle, not at all. You can barely even tell. I don't know if I've ever been in a vehicle where the auto start stop is this not noticeable. And that's It's now time for our final thoughts. When we first started the show, we were actually going to entitle it Drive for Fun. And the reason being was I'm not a huge fan of SUVs, and I figure if you got to drive, no matter what it is, SUV, sports car, minivan, it should be for fun. The car should give you some level of enjoyment. And this is exactly what the Porsche Cayenne does. As we said, it was built off the 911 in the sense, not off the platform, of course, but in the sense of they wanted to make an SUV that was incredibly practical, incredibly safe, luxurious, comfortable, but also fun. They wanted to bring that level of 911 excitement to an SUV for people that needed a vehicle that was a little bit more practical. And I have to say that's exactly what it is. You get everything that you could ever want from a Porsche in this vehicle, and it is the champ for a reason. Thanks for watching.